What's this thing called equity, and how can we access it and use it to help us on our road to building wealth through property? And what are the do's and don'ts of using equity the right way or the not so right way? Okay, let's have a look at it. Would you like to know? Why am I telling you this story? Well, two reasons. Firstly, a client of mine came to me and she has a property already. We are doing a loan for her to buy another property, and she was concerned that she might not have had enough deposit to acquire this property that she's looking at, and said, can I access my equity? And from that conversation and highlighting some very important things that matter and go into using equity the right way and the not so right way, has inspired me to do this video. Okay, so let's have a look. Now, before I do, and what I did for my client and also going through this myself, I've got a quick story. And it's a painful story, but it was a very important lesson for me about using equity. So let's go back. Let's go back 12 years. I had a finance mortgage business then, Best Australian Loans, and it was the boom. You could buy property quite easily. Application processes back then were quite a bit simpler and a bit different. However, I had accumulated a couple of properties and had some equity in them. And so what I thought I would do and could do, because I had my own finance mortgage business, was I would just go and draw equity out of a property, and I would then go use that for the deposit cost to buy another property. And I did it again and again. And that was very much the flavor of what people did then. And maybe you can hear where this story's going. We can use equity to do great things, to build wealth and all of that, but it can also bury us if we don't know the numbers and the impact of increasing loans and drawing equity. So let me show you, if you'd like to see some numbers on the do's and don'ts for how to use equity and access equity, and to make sure that you can afford it and the numbers work in your favor, because we want you to be in the driver's seat of your investments and property purchases and know what you're doing. That's what I'm really passionate about, so you can get the result that you want. So let's have a look. Okay, I'm going to jump over here. Oh, excuse me. I better make sure that I share my screen. Okay, let's do this. All right, let's share this. Okay, so if you're still with me, really quickly, I've done this to make it as simple as possible. Let's say you've got a home or investment property with equity in it, and you want to use the equity. Let's say, for argument's sake, it's valued at 840. The current loan balance is 460. And let's say we do a loan up to 80% of the value, so we don't incur lender's mortgage insurance. And by the way, there's an addendum to all of this. It has to be specific to you. There are many variables depending on the individual. This is just a general case study example. This is not specific financial advice, and I'm telling you how to do this specific way. It's just to give you the general big picture, and always speak to an expert and go through the numbers to make sure it's specific to your needs and it's affordable and it works. And we have to do that anyway as finance brokers and all of us that work in the financial services space, because it's a really good thing now to make sure that the numbers work and everyone's going to be happy and sleep at night, right? Okay, back to the example. Let's say you have a loan of 460, we borrow up to 80% of the valuation and it's all approved by the lender who is doing it. You've now got access, you've got a loan facility of up to $672,000, which that minus that gives you available equity to use at $212,000. So you can use that $212,000 to go and acquire the next property to put towards the deposit costs. But before we do look at those figures, a couple of things for us to highlight. Depending on the loan that you've got and the repayments and the interest rate, we want to make sure that the numbers work from an affordability perspective. And this is where I back then got myself into a lot of trouble. I'll show you why. So let's just say your current loan of 460, it's a P&I loan. 3.5. Your annual repayments are $24,792. You've got water and council rates, 5,500, let's say. Repairs estimate 4,000. You've got total outgoings, excuse me, that is total outgoings. Little bit of a typo there from the spreadsheet I was building. 34,000. And now, if you're renting this property, we would obviously, well, we wouldn't obviously, just to let you know, what's the income, what's the expenses, what's the difference? Now, I've put the rent at $820, just as a rough estimate against the value of the property. We are in a very unique environment at the moment where rental incomes are proving to be quite high because we have a shortage of property. So while we have some easing off of property value and sales, we do have a very strong, depending on where you own, of course, a very strong rental yield against property at this time. But just for the exercise, I've put it at 820, which if we had a loan of this amount on these outgoings, we would be finding ourselves in a position of we'd be in profit. Let's say we're in profit $8,000 before tax against this property. Now, some people are like, well, pay tax in profit. Let me assure you, again, person specific, specific to your needs. If we're in profit, it's a good thing because we're making money. Up to you how you roll. But for me, I want to make profit. But your circumstance, whatever it is up to you. Okay. And if you want to talk about that, we can talk to myself and my accountants to make sure it's a good fit for you. Now, coming back to the exercise, let's just say that you don't rent that property out and you have no rental income. So you've got an outgoing of $34,000 or $2,857 a month, including all costs to pay that loan and control that property. We call it in our sector, you're controlling an asset. Yes, you might live in it, you might rent it out, but you're controlling an income producing asset, okay? So we'll just put that rental income back. Now, let's go over here and let's move this and let's look at now the property that you want to purchase. You still with me? Yes? Think about this yourself. Excuse me, I've attempted to keep the numbers as simple as possible. And if you'd like some help and a copy of this, we can talk about how you can have this for yourself in a moment. All right, but let's get back to the numbers. Because here's the thing also. Know your numbers. Know your numbers. Back then, I will put my hand up. I had a mortgage finance business and I knew the numbers, but I really could have done better to know the numbers better, okay? We want to know our numbers. So let's get back to it. Let's say we're going to acquire another property at 800,000. We borrow up to 80%, let's say, so we don't incur lender's mortgage insurance, just for the exercise. So that means we need a 20% deposit. And look, as a rough estimate, it generally works out at about 4.5 to 5% of the purchase price for stamp duty costs, so on and so forth, if excluding LV, lender's mortgage insurance, okay? So let's say we've got costs of 40,000. So we need 200,000 deposit cost to acquire the $800,000 property, of which we're going to take out of our equity. Yes? So now we're using our equity, okay? So over here, equity used, because what's going to happen now is we've got more costs happening, and we need to make sure that we can understand the numbers that the costs and the income are going to work for us financially. So as the template in the video says, affordability, do's and don'ts, making sure it's going to work for us, okay? So we've now got a loan that we're paying, and I again just worked on P&I, 3.5%, 898 per month or 10,000 odd per year. Now we have this loan here against this property, which gives us this annual repayment plus rates and outgoings. We've got an outgoing total now of 54,000 over here. And let's say we're renting this property for 800. Could be a bit more, could be a bit less. Again, just for the exercise, where we've got a bit of a negative income and effect occurring under this model, which means we need to be able to manage this shortfall through the income that we're generating somewhere else. to be able to put towards it. Now, if we were renting this out, we could use this income to offset this little loss over here. But we need to know, most importantly, what the bottom line income, profit or loss is going to be for our asset holding. If we want to build wealth through our property, the right way, the smart way, to reduce as much stress as possible and to make sure it's going to work for us long-term, short-term and long-term. Because I get it. Now, what are we doing? We are controlling 2 properties upwards of, 1.6 million, 1.7 million. And with property, the way it's going and has always gone in a good area, good rental income, controlling assets like this can prove to be a very, very sound way to contribute to our overall wealth creation. Now, good news, right? And you may already know this. However, I just want to add the do's and don'ts as a quick summary, and then we can wrap it up. Okay? All right. So a couple of things. This here is where through my, I guess, I knew what I was doing, but it was a lesson I had to learn. I went and acquired 5 properties and I had a substantial shortfall. There was a dramatic change in the economy with the GFC. And all of a sudden, I found myself with about, I think, an $8,000 shortfall per month on my income to expenses on all of my properties. And because of everything that was going on in the economy in the world, I went into panic stations and I went and did some things that I probably could have done a little smarter, but I did the best I could at the time. And I fired sales some properties and just wanted to get this negative income position that I was in sorted. But it was a very stressful time. So, I want to highlight that as the don'ts do that, don't do that. But to come back to the good news is, and I'll just stop sharing, I'll come back to the good news is, with the right plan, working the numbers, it can be a very, very good way to, oh, by the way, did you find that helpful? Do you know, or a good reminder on knowing how to access equity out of one property to use the second property? Yes, I hope so. So in summary, know the numbers, have someone help you do the numbers, so you're really clear on the bottom line position that you're putting yourself in. Because as property investors, and I say this respectfully if you already know this, but if you don't or need a little reminder, this is the business of investing. And if we're going to be good business people and good investors, it is about knowing the numbers. I know it's painful. I know I don't necessarily like doing it either, but a little bit of pain, a little bit of doing the numbers can save you a whole lot of stress and drama that could have been avoided by just taking a bit more time to do the numbers. And, if you're rushed with time, and in the words of Robert Kiyosaki, he said, when's the next good deal? And he says in about 30 minutes. So I know we can get very attached to property and, oh, we've got to get it or we're going to miss out. And I understand it does happen. But please, if I can give you any closing words, make sure you do the numbers. If you want some help with it, you'd like a copy of this template, if you're looking at drawing equity or someone that you know, or just want to run the numbers, shoot me an email. We can have a chat. It's really simple to do. Good to have the tools that we can just punch the numbers in. And if I can help, just even clear your mind and get some answers or get a better plan going, reach out. It'll be a pleasure. Okay. Wealthy Wednesday, you. Thanks for watching. And Trevor Russell out, Results Investment Group. Shoot an email if you want some help, or if there's another topic that you would like me to present around property and loans and doing things smarter and wiser with money. That would be my pleasure. Keep up the great work. Whatever you want to do, you can do it. Speak soon. Ciao for now.